go live. I think we're live. You know what we really need to do is have some sort of intro, like music or something that goes live before us so that we can no, not that. So
Come
we can
on.
verify that we're live and we're not just like, well, I'm not
Yeah,
trying
there's
to
a
figure
bunch
out
of
whether or not we're live.
media assets in that folder. We could just pick a random one and play it right now live. That would be fun. Just random video.
Media assets.
Yeah, that's where all that stuff goes.
Yeah, I see it.
You could do like a cool YouTube intro. Whoa.
We can do
Whoa.
like music or something.
I think
There's a
there's
countdown, which would stop. There we go.
whoa.
So yeah, we should definitely be learning how to use the tech that we have been gifted.
Yes, I agree.
I am going to share that. Okay, so Duncan, I'm excited to talk to you. I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever. You were gone last week, and it was driving me nuts that things were happening and you were doing stuff, and I was not there live to know everything that was happening. And so I made myself stop messaging you. Because
Is that what it was?
like, where are you? Are you there? What's going
I
on?
thought you were mad at me. I was like, oh no,
No.
Allie's like, she's
I'm
discontinued our
like,
friendship because I didn't invite her.
just give them their space. Give them their space and let them do their thing, and I'll find out about it later.
Let me tell you right now, it was cold, and I think that it should be illegal for it to be that cold anywhere on Earth.
You weren't even there during the cold part.
Yeah, it was like 19 degrees, and I was like, President Trump, help me out here, warm the country up for me, heat it back up, okay?
Yeah, well, good luck with that because
I just wanted to make things political right
it
out of
is
the gate.
19 here today. And this is a heat wave. We were -7, I think, this week.
Oh no.
On yesterday morning, it was too dangerous for kids to go to school.
Yeah, that's
It was too
ridiculous.
cold and too
Yeah,
dangerous.
we should just outlaw the winter. Like, I don't see what's going on here. Just like make it illegal.
As much as I am, whatever about global warming and it's happening and all of that, I gotta say I can't completely complain.
Yeah.
Because when we have a warm January here in Ohio, it's 30-40 degrees. I'm not worried about it at all. I am rather in favor of it at that point.
I mean, more carbon in the atmosphere. Don't plants like carbon? It's like,
they do. I like to garden. I like to
Yeah.
garden, and I like it to not be -5 degrees.
Exactly.
So it's going to
Global
heat
warming.
up here.
I'm pro
again.
global warming too. Let's just take a stance on that as a friendship. Pro global warming shirts.
Just for my particular part of the country. That's all.
Okay.
Just for Ohio, because it doesn't really hurt us here too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if
it hurts y'all.
Ice caps are melting. Miami is flooding. Like we're both like pro global warming. Yeah, we'll be all right. We'll be all right.
All right. So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the event that you went to, the trade show that you went to, what you learned, what you did while you were there. How did you strategically approach the event, which I'm sure there's definitely some strategy going into it. And because I think that trade show, I don't think I've ever done what would be considered a trade show. I've done shows, right? But I don't know if I've ever done anything that's like really a B2B trade show, setting up with a booth, but I've thought about it. And I think that for, local businesses setting up at something like a home and garden type show for some businesses, or they have some of these other little B2B type expo sort of things. Never set up at it, always interested in it. I think there's good opportunities there if you do it strategically. And that's always been my issue, is when I see people setting up at these events, like they have a boring booth, they have just boring plain brochures. They're sitting behind a table. They're not engaging with people. And I think about just like all the money that is just like left on the table because they don't do anything. So I want to talk about what you did and maybe judge it. I'll judge it like, no, yours boring too. But just kind of like look at what you did and what you worked and what worked for you and what you observed with other people. So maybe tell us a little bit about the event that you went to.
Yeah, sure. So, marketing agency targeted specifically at the manufactured housing industry or mobile home industry. That's what most people call them, even though the whole industry underwent a rebrand to try and make people not see them as mobile homes. It's so fascinating to me. I could just talk for an hour on that specifically.
I
And we
love
even
it.
have some stories from the show where people are like, don't you know they're called manufactured homes now? Because we're the mobile home guys. And we're
Mhm,
like, yeah, but what do your clients call them? Like, how are your ads working that say manufactured home? Like, nobody knows what that is in the
mhm.
market. But I digress. Anyway, we went to a trade show in Louisville, Kentucky, called the Louisville Manufactured Housing Expo.
It wasn't the Mobile Home Expo.
So
Read the room, Duncan.
very inventive name there. I know exactly what it is and who it's for. And there were 4,000 people in attendance at this expo. So like pretty decent sized expo. And to me, the thing that really stood out was the scale of the displays from the manufacturers at this show, because all the people that are coming are like mobile home parks, retailers, builder, developer type people. So it was like the manufacturers were like, we're putting on a show. Clayton Homes had a whole like half of this warehouse, not warehouse, this expo center, and there were homes inside. They brought homes in and set it up, fully staged, furnished, lit. It was insane. And they had over 40 homes. So it was crazy just to like be in a place that was even happening, first off. And only a small portion of it was reserved for exhibitors such as myself, who are trying to, people trying to sell other things to those same people, mobile home parks, retailers, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's what it was. It was really just a thing where they paid to get in and they walk around and we try and hawk our wares. Everybody from Clayton Homes, that's like a massive, mega, multi-billion-dollar corporation, all the way down to humble marketing agency. We're all trying to sell these people something. And it was a really interesting arena to try and have those kinds of conversations in, because you're sitting in a row with a bunch of other people trying to sell them something also, and it just triggers so much sales resistance. Like, people were walking by with blinders on, even though that's the whole point of being there, is to like learn about other companies that are offering services to your business. You had to really work to get them to even take a chance to come over to you, first of all, and then to break through whatever misconceptions they might have about what you do, or confusion or resistance. So it was an interesting challenge, just from a not even a sales perspective, from like a people perspective. It was
Mhm.
hard to even just like have a normal conversation with somebody because of how charged like the environment was, if that makes sense. So is that a
Yeah,
good picture of what was going on there?
people hate to be sold to.
Yeah, they hate it. Yep.
And even in an environment where they're intentionally going in to buy,
Yep.
they hate to be sold to.
I hate it.
Like, nobody likes it, nobody wants it. And even the salespeople will. That's why I don't particularly like it, because even as a salesperson, that they're resisting you and you have to break through that. And for me, that's like the most uncomfortable thing possible, and I just would like to not do it. Even at the farmers market, when we'd set up at the farmers market, Tim was so much better at sales at the farmers market than I was, because I'm like, if they want to, they'll come over and look at my table. I don't need to say hi or anything. Like
Mhm.
I was the one that would hide in the corner. And like, even for my clients, I would teach them never to do that if you want to make sales. But I guess I didn't care. I was like, no, if they came up, I'd say hi. I was very friendly. But Tim was good at just seeing somebody look out the corner of their eye, and he'd be like, come on over and try this free sample. And I'm like, don't bother
Yeah, shut up.
them. They were just walking by. Don't call
Yeah,
them over
don't
here.
bother them. Yeah, yeah.
They
And
didn't
like
say if
that's
they want to stop here, they'll stop here.
yeah, that's who I am, like deep on the inside. I am not like, don't call them over, don't even look at them, because they'll look if they want to look, but that you can't. You can't in
Right.
that environment, because the guy next to us in particular, which is I appreciate that you asked like what I saw other people do and how it kind of affected our strategy. We had a guy on the left of us who two guys, software company. It's like a website plugin that lets you design a house with a few clicks. So the
Nice.
person that's there, it's pretty simple, straightforward technology, but it gets people invested in actually coming in to see potentially the home that they've designed, right? That's kind of the hook. Creates a higher quality lead. But the tech itself is not super high tech. And they were like, hey, come over here. Like, hey, are you a retailer? Do you have 2 seconds? Like all the things that you're talking about, like reaching out directly to people,
Mhm.
even if they show a little bit of interest. And
Even
I
if
was
they just
watching it.
glance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep. They were pretty good at that. They went up and down in waves. And like I was watching because I'm an observer, right? And the guy to the right of us had a table with a TV on it that took up the entire table, and there were some brochures on the front of it, nothing else. And they put their chairs behind the table, behind the TVs, did not talk to anyone the entire show. Didn't say a word to anybody, and just let people like walk by and watch the video on the TV and pick up brochures. And I was like, what is happening here? Like, what are you guys doing? You paid to be here. Like, why is this even happening? And then come to find out, they really only went there to meet one company, one group of executives from one company, and they didn't care about anybody else. And I was like, okay, so I kind of get it, right? And that's the kind of people that were at this show. It was like you meet one person, and the one person says yes to you, you have a successful business, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the kind of people that were at this
And
place.
the table's almost like the price of entry of being like
Yep.
real. You're an exhibitor, you're on the list, and you get the customer list and all of
Yep,
that.
yep. Your logo's on the brochure. It's legitimacy, right? It's
Right.
a reason to seek them out and say, hey, can you please come to my booth before you leave this show? I want to show you something that you're gonna like, right? And like
Mhm.
I went in after I learned that, right? This is what I learned from them. Like, oh, I need to be more intentional about knowing who those people are and seeking them out. Like that's what a CEO business development kind of push the business forward position is, not necessarily CEO, but like the business development person. That's
Mhm.
like more business development than sales. And I need to be thinking about those kinds of relationships that I can make in order to open big doors by just making friends with one person, right? I
Yeah.
like the idea of leaning back and them coming to me, like the guy that booked a call with us today. That's a massive win. And he came to us because he saw our ads, right? It's like you can't get any better than that, but also seeking those people out now that we have a little bit of legitimacy in the
Mhm.
industry is also good. It's like be proactive, right?
Yeah, I really like that idea of like these are the people that if I talk to these people, then at least you have the introduction, at
Mhm.
least they know who you are. Even if you don't close the sale, there then and there, you at least have that foot in the door that they know who you are. And if you reach out again, they have that familiarity. They get to see your face, they get to shake your hand, they get a sense of who you are. What would you like? How do you do that research in something like that? Would you like if you were to do it again, knowing that, how would you go about finding the people that you want to talk to?
I would spend an entire day looking not only at the attendee list and their position in the company, but also the exhibitor list, which we also got, which I kind of did. I skimmed it and was like, okay, they might be good to make friends with. I kind of like, I did it, but it was very surface level. I didn't like
Mhm,
dig down into it. I was like, okay, business development, marketing director, like cool, cool, cool. These people are going to be there and they're going to be exposed to what we're doing, right? It wasn't like I'm going to go find this person and bring them to our table. That's the environment, right? Like I could walk around and be like, hey, I just sent you a friend request 3 days ago on Facebook, and now I'm here in person. Please come to our booth later. Like um, that would have been the smarter play. But what I did was I realized that that's what I should be doing while I was there. Like I walked around and talked to a few people and I was like, "Oh, that's the big play, right? Like we're going to get clients from this. We're going to get people that are like, "Yeah, I want this thing," and we're going to sign them." But I realized like one person could open a massive
mhm.
door. Um, and
Just
so
like the conversations you had today.
yes, yep,
Yeah.
exactly. But and they're all there. They're all in the same room, so I could just like go around and talk to people and see what might come of it. That's kind of the approach that I took. But next time it's like it's going to be proactive, and I'm going to have the people in mind and the partnerships in mind when I go into it, if that makes sense. It's like
Mhm.
I'll have an idea of how we can help each other. This time I talked to 4 or 5 people that I was like, yeah, I want to work with you because we share a client base and provide different services, and my service makes yours better and your service makes mine better. I don't know what that looks like, but that's where I'm at. And people are like,
Mhm.
"Oh, wow, that's refreshing that you're not trying to like sell me or do whatever. You're just like straightforward about it." And I was like, "Yeah, like all we're trying to do is make a good product for our clients. And if I can partner with somebody that has the same clients and we can do that for each other's clients, like why wouldn't I do that? It's like
Mhm.
make other people rich, get rich in the process. Like that's this whole industry." And it was a way
Mhm.
to kind of feel them out and see if they were thinking at that same level,
Right,
if
if
that
they get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like it was surprising to me that uh overall most people did, but if they were an employee of the company that was like a salesperson or a marketing director, they didn't get it. I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
this is kind of your job. It's like to build these kinds of relationships really and
Mhm.
like and open the door to potential opportunities like this, but you don't really get what I'm saying to you." It's like, "Oh yeah, cool, we have a partnership program where we get your app listed in our list of apps that we work with." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but what's the next, what do people who you actually like get to do with you?" Like,
Yeah,
you
like,
know what I
let's
mean?
pretend we're
Like,
friends.
yeah,
We
yeah,
what can we do? Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yep, yep. But I have, I say that I say it like I didn't really take advantage of it. Don't get me wrong. Like I have 3 meetings tomorrow with people from that show that if we become friends, there's one of them that has 43,000 clients. They're mobile home parks and retailers, right?
Mhm.
It's like he's like, "Yeah, I love what you're doing. We need to figure out how to integrate it into our platform and offer it to our people." And I was like, "Oh yeah, you're 43,000 people. Got it. Got it. Okay." Right? So like that's the kind of and that was casual conversation at the show, right?
Yep.
And it led to a meeting with him tomorrow. We have a demo with him. So it's kind of like I did it, but I would have gotten a lot more out of it if I had been a little bit more proactive, just a little bit. So,
I love that.
yeah.
That's really, really cool, and that's kind of one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is what was making me think about it. What it's not like what you know, it's who you know, that
Hmm.
power of networking, that
Yep.
if you know people in a space, it's going to be more likely you get the job or you get the deal, or it's why people take other business owners out golfing, like they go golfing together. And it's just about, building those relationships so that you're the one they think of when it comes time to do XYZ, or when you approach them with, "Hey, I want to work on XYZ," they're open to doing it. I don't remember what it was I was thinking about the other day, but I was thinking, like, if I just know the right person, that opens up so many more doors than trying to go find each individual person on my own.
Yep.
And one thing I've always done, and that's kind of like what you're talking about with this person you're talking to tomorrow, is who is a person that has influence over the same people I want to have influence with, and how do you get in and build that relationship?
Hmm.
So I think that's a good way to approach like, who do you build a relationship with at these shows? Who already has a significant influence? Do they publish a newsletter? Do they have a magazine? Do they have an email list? Do they have a lot of clients, paying clients? Do they have a large social media following? Do they have, like, are they huge on YouTube? Like, who can I be friends with in this industry that already is talking to who I'm talking to, and who's not necessarily, although you could, but not necessarily a direct competitor,
Yep.
right? We're not necessarily doing the same thing, but we complement each other, like you mentioned.
Yeah, 100%. That's like the coaching consulting program that Benjamin and I are in, our agency is in, calls those joint ventures. It's like
Yeah.
what kind of joint ventures can you do to really grow each other's business and
Mhm.
help each other's clients? And I think it's similar to other sales in that you want to go in with not like a not like a taking mentality. It's
Yep.
like it's not what can I get out of this. It's more of a mm, I'm interested in what you're doing, and I really think that it would be beneficial to my clients. And I
Mhm.
feel the same about what I do for yours. It's
Mhm.
like that is legitimately how I feel when I talk to those people. I'm not going in like 43,000 clients. Obviously, that's like crazy to me, and I get a little bit of butterflies. But like that's not why I'm going into that conversation with him. It's like our product actually solves a massive problem that all of his clients have, and he said that to me. Like I
Right.
didn't pull that out of him. Like he's like, "Oh yeah, like all of my clients could use this." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Like that's why that's why we're here."
That's
You
why we're
know.
doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no, I love that. I love that. Yeah, joint ventures. So that's one of the things I learned about in that very first marketing book I ever read, The Multiple Streams of Internet Income by Robert G. Allen. That was the first time I ever learned about joint ventures and just blew my mind. And we built the rabbit toy business a lot on joint ventures. We just found the guy who already had a rabbit email list. And I'm like, all right, we'll give you a cut of every rabbit toy that we sell.
Yep.
And he put us in his email sequence. So we had consistent sales, daily sales that would come in just because we were in his email sequence, which was very, very cool. So yeah, it's those relationships are important. And I think that businesses are really open to it. It's just most people seem scared to ask
Yep.
or like I think two things. I think some people ask, but they're not serious about it. Like I've gotten a lot of we should work together. And I'm like, okay, so what do you do? Well, I just started a business 2 minutes ago and I
Yeah.
have no customers, but I wanna, piggyback on your customers and I only want to take and I really don't have value to give. So there
Mhm.
are those people. But for the most part, if you talk to a player and you show them that you're in the game to play,
Mm.
that you're not just started 2 minutes ago and I don't have any customers, I just want all yours, they're vastly open to it, like
Yep.
real entrepreneurs. And I love how you said like the managers and the salespeople don't get it. Real entrepreneurs get it because
Yep.
they see that's what being an entrepreneur is looking for that opportunity and looking for ways to how do I grow and how do I make more money and how do I make these connections. So that's really, really cool. I like that
Yeah,
a
and
lot.
I like what you said too about how, a lot of people that pursue these kinds of things aren't serious. And I think that some clarification there is important too. Like I'll hear people say it and like they're serious about wanting it, but they're not serious about they're serious about wanting to work with you, but they're not serious in that they're willing to do what it takes to get
Yep.
that kind of relationship, right? It's like
Yep.
I would be willing to work with somebody that has 0 clients if they are willing to put their nuts on the table, like
We had to
I,
go there.
yeah, right, right. It's
That's
my
what we should
go-to
just call
now.
the podcast. We're not
Y-
going to, but we
y-
should.
Yeah, yeah. It's like do you know what I mean though? It's like
Mhm.
they want it, but they're not willing to actually do what they
Show
need
up
to
and do the
do.
work. Yeah,
Or
again, they
even
want it
or
because
even to
they
like follow up enough, right? It's like
yeah,
to pursue you. The joint venture thing is like I'm busy, I'm working. You can tell that I'm doing something that's successful that you want to hitch your cart to, which is great, but like I'm not slowing down for you. I'm not
right.
going to slow down and like hold your hand and like pull you along with me. It's like you got to run next to the cart, next to the horse and jump on or whatever the analogy is. It's like
Mhm.
a lot of people ask once and then that's kind of where it dies.
Yep.
You gotta like the guy that I mentioned with the ton of clients, great guy. He's like the co-president of a company that got acquired by a bigger company, and he's still operating it. And it's like I've talked to him, I don't know, 5 or 6 times now. Like and it not like, hey man, like we really want to sell you this thing. Like we really want to do this thing. It's like, hey, I know you're sponsoring this event that's coming up. How's that going? I've hosted one event in my entire life and I wanted to die the entire time. Good on you, brother. Like I
Was
do
that
not
was that a
admire your
German
position.
Shepherd rescue event?
Yeah,
Yeah.
never again. Oh my God. Allie bared witness to someone almost dying by German Shepherd attack at the
It
first
was
event I ever hosted.
look, the event itself was fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
The fact that the one breed of dog that I'm afraid of is the German Shepherd.
Yep.
Like, I'm not afraid of anything else. Not really.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid of German Shepherds, and I show up and I watch that German Shepherd bite him. I could not believe it. I'm like, I don't know if I can be here right
You
now.
you couldn't believe it.
told you German Shepherds are the worst.
I almost left, and I was hosting it. I was like, nope, nope, I gotta get out of here. That was crazy.
It was
So
like bad body language the whole time. And I'm like,
whew,
that dog's not safe. That dog's
even
not
when they were
safe.
walking it in, I was like, this is a problem. And then I was doing other things because I'm managing the thing, and then it was a problem. It was a
Yes,
problem.
it was. They
Anyway,
should have
my
known better. They should
they
have
should have
known
known better.
better.
That was definitely their fault.
100%.
But whatever. Yeah, whatever. Live and you learn. Like next time it's like
Shih
Shih
Tzu
Tzus.
rescue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Shih Tzus, stuffed animal rescue. Like just keep it completely safe. Um anyway, my point is like I'm not soliciting that guy. Like I
Mhm.
like that guy. I want to be his friend even if we never end up working together, and I put in the work to show him that I was actually interested in who he is as a person. It's more like dating than it is
Mhm.
sales, if that
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think that's 100% right.
Yep.
And I think that's a great way of looking at it is that I'm getting to know you, you're getting to know me, I'm showing interest in you, gauging whether or not you're showing interest in me, right? And it's how real relationships are built, and that's going to get you the sale better than just like, "Hey man, I have this thing, you want to buy it?" and you should show it to 43,000 people.
Yeah.
I like Joe Polish's approach is just like if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
Yep.
That if you just show up for other people, and I'm sure he's strategic in that, otherwise he would just be like sacrificing himself to every single person that wants a piece of him. So I'm sure he brings strategy to it. But I think about that a lot. That if I help them get what they want, then I will be rewarded in return if I do it strategically.
Yep.
And so yeah, I think that's a really great idea with the event, because then it becomes less about the booth and it becomes less about your pitch and your presentation and whether or not you have the gimmicks to bring people over, and it's more about that intentionality.
Speaking of gimmicks,
I was going to
let's
say, but that doesn't mean I don't want to talk about the booth and the gimmicks.
let's talk about the gimmicks. So I talked about kind of what I learned from the guy on the right, which was like one relationship can kind of be the key to unlocking everything. And like I knew that that's what they were doing a little bit, into the show. So I got some of that insight from them and also from just walking around. The guys to our left were selling a product in a space with the same results based pitch or similar to what we were selling, right?
Mhm,
So I was listening and
mhm,
they're saying, put this on your website and increase conversions by 30%. It's like that kind of terminology. And they were a little bit more forward with their outreach to people in the beginning. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. So we definitely need to do that. And like I started doing that, but in a way that based on my knowledge of sales, knew would work better,
mhm.
meaning they were reaching out to people, triggering sales resistance. I saw it multiple times. Like, hey, do you have 2 seconds for me to show you our product that we think would be really nice for you? It's like, hey, will you come over here so I can try and sell you something? That is what
Yeah,
that says,
brick
right?
brick wall right up. Yeah.
Literally, people were like, no thank you, and then they kept walking. That happened 8 times out of 10, right? And I saw that before I started even like getting into what I was doing, and all I did was ask them something that was not a yes or no question that had something to do with them. It's like, oh hey, you're a retailer, where are you guys out of? It's like simple change. Everyone stopped, turned, and said, we're out of this state. I said, oh, cool. I have a client in that state. Do you guys sell this manufacturer? And it
So good.
starts a conversation. Like that's the whole point, is like you reel them in and then you're there asking them questions about their business in the context of this show, which is about their business. And it's not about me and my products, it's about them. And that does two things: starts a conversation, it stops them. First of all, that's the hard part. And it also does what we do on our first call. It's like our strategy, our discovery call is all me asking them those questions about their business.
Mhm.
Like, how many homes are you selling per month? How big's your sales team? Are you guys doing any paid ads? How many leads are you generating per month? And that all led into like, oh wow, yeah, so you guys are doing like 200 leads a month. What's that like? Like, do you guys follow up with everybody? Like, do you get to those
I
leads
love
within
that
five
so much.
minutes? Right? It's like that's where those conversations led. And it was interesting to me that like I looked at them and learned that I shouldn't do it that way. And I'm not saying something about how smart I am or whatever,
Mhm.
like, but like they had their blinders on and were doing their thing and weren't paying any attention to us. Like, we know how to do this. But, and the main lesson in that is like never get so like in your lane that you can't learn from somebody else's mistakes or successes, right? It's
Right,
like,
right. Learn both ways. Yeah, you
yeah,
learn from the one guy who looks like he's doing it all wrong, hiding
yeah,
behind the TV, and the
yeah,
other guy who looks like he's doing it all right, but you
yes.
find out what he's doing wrong and then you build on that.
Hmm.
I love that question that you ask them because it we always talk about getting people to lean in, right?
Hmm.
Instead of you leaning into them, that makes them lean back. But asking a question like, "Oh, you're a retailer, where are you out of?" It's almost like an ego thing. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. So you're really just making it all about them and they want to talk to the guy who's shown interest in them. Like
Yes,
I want to
correct.
talk like as the business owner if that was my interaction, I want to talk about especially if I'm proud of how well my business is doing, like, oh, we sell X amount of homes and we do this numbers and we get this many leads in the door and I just feel good that I'm talking about my business and you're the one that's allowing me to talk about my business. It's a way of giving first, even though it doesn't really, I don't think the average person would see it that way, like, oh, you're
Mm,
asking questions, but it really is a way of giving first because you're making them feel comfortable and proud of their business and even just proud of the state that they live in.
yeah.
People like to talk about themselves and they want others to know, I think this thing is great about me and I'm going to let you know what those things are.
Yep.
And that's giving first.
Yeah, and my line for whenever they say where they're from, I'm always like, "Oh yeah, mobile home capital of the world," right? It's like they're like, "Yeah, yeah, you sell more mobile homes than," I'm like, "Yeah, damn right you do, buddy." Right? All you got to do
And
is get
they're
them
oh, yeah, I love it.
talking.
That's so
Yeah, yeah.
good. That's
And
so
that was it was so fun for me because I like think about all these things all the time. And since we've launched our ads, I get to practice whatever 8, 10 times a day. I don't even want to think about it. I need a nap. But there it was like I get to practice over and over and over and try like slight different variations in how I say
yes.
something or the order that I say things in. And I get that feedback real time, which is so cool to me.
Mhm,
Um, because that's what I like. I like learning, right? I
mhm,
like watching what they're doing, and like thinking about it and developing an
mhm.
idea, and then trying things out, and then moving on with my life once I feel like I have it figured out. That's a part of my problem.
I know,
But
I'm right there with you, like, if I was
yeah,
there, that's exactly what I'd be doing. I'd be
yep,
looking at every booth, like, what are these guys doing, and what are these guys doing, and does that seem to be working, or does that not seem to be working, and what is their
yes,
strategy, and ultimately, what is their goal? Do they even know what their goal is? Do they even so, like, the guys that sat behind the TV, they had that intentionality. They knew what their goal was. I think a lot of people go and just say, well, I want to find customers, but they don't really know like what is the next step. Does that mean you want to book a call with them? Does that mean I see this all the time? I mean, with much smaller businesses. Where was it that I reached out to somebody the other day and I was asking them questions about their business, and it's like I had to pull it out of them, and I'm like, okay, can I book an appointment? Like, and they're like, yeah.
dot dot dot.
Okay, how would you like me to go about booking this appointment?
Yeah.
And so like they feel like, okay, I need customers, but I don't know what to do with them.
Mm,
So it's interesting to see people at all different kinds of understanding of that process.
mm,
And like you said, you learn just as much from the people making mistakes. Like, ooh, I can see that. I definitely don't want to be making that mistake. But then you learn from those that are doing good and everything in between. Um, if I were at a farmer's market or something and I wanted to call somebody over, but I can only do this authentically, is I would like compliment their shoes or their
mm.
dress or something.
Sure.
Like, but that's at giving first, right?
Yep.
Or you could do like free samples or something like that. And I think free samples are great as long as it's something that people actually want.
Yes.
Like if I'm giving away free heirloom tomato samples, like people that like tomatoes are going to come over and get it. But
Yep.
like a free 2-minute demo of your product is
Yeah.
not
Cares.
really, that's a sales pitch, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing in it for them to listen to you. Where at least if I give you an heirloom tomato slice, you at least get to eat the tomato.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah,
there's
so
something in it for them.
here's how we took that and kind of flipped it, right? So like nobody wants a demo of your product, but they are interested in something that they feel like is might not work or might be new or cutting edge that they don't believe in, that they might
Mhm.
want to try it out, right? So we tapped into that in two ways. We did the QR code banner behind our booth, which didn't work as well as expected, right? It was like scan this, uh, break our AI, win $50. That was kind of like the big headline on there. And it was trying to tap into that same thing of like test our product, but you know, you don't really believe it could actually work to sell homes. So we're giving you a chance to actually prove it. And if you do break it, we'll pay you, right? That's the
Mhm.
psychology there. I think the main problem with that was people didn't even like slow down to read it. Most people like walk in blinders and like peek at you. Hopefully you don't say anything to me. Like they'd have to stop and look past our TV and our table to see it hung up back there. So that was a part of it. But also I think like you said when we talked about it briefly while we were on that trip, maybe you gave them too much credit. It's like QR codes, like the tech might
Well,
not
you
be
said they
there.
don't even know how to spell QR code.
Yeah. I was frustrated, Allie. I was frustrated that no one was scanning our nice fancy banner. But yes, it's like they don't even have the understanding of why they might do that or what the AI even is. Like we had people like, you know, break our AI. What does that even mean? Right? It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, they don't get it. And
Yeah,
it's my fault for
they're
not.
still not even sure what AI
Yes,
even is. Yeah, let
correct. Which
alone what it can do for them.
yeah, which
And what are
benefited
they
us.
breaking? Like,
Exactly. Yeah. It benefited us to some degree because some people were like, you know, like, what does this even mean? And like,
yeah, the
our
confusion brings them in. Yeah,
exactly. And I would rather them be there and confused than not there at all. Right. It's
sure.
like, come on over. I'll tell you what this means. And our tagline that we've been playing around with is sell more homes with AI. And they're like, okay, they know kind of what AI is and they
Mhm.
want to sell more homes. So they're leaning in a little bit interested. But my point with the whole like the demonstration and trying to turn that into something they actually want to do, the banner didn't really work. But here's the progression of things. Day one, a lot of learning and observation, like walking around, kind of feeling things out and seeing our neighbors that were doing things one way and neighbors doing things one way over here. Our tech business neighbors had a little golf thing and they were giving away a putter. It's like, you know, sink a putt, get entered into a thing to win the putter. Like, okay, it's cute, right? Get people to interact, maybe a reason for them to slow down. But it's a little gimmicky, which obviously, like, that's what it is. It's supposed to kind
Mhm.
of gimmick people in. Um, and then Benjamin, being Benjamin, we went back to the Airbnb that night and he was like, you know, F those guys. Like we need something cool, like golf. Like we need something cool to show them up because we're a cooler company and like our thing's better than theirs. And we did a demo of the voice AI, which is like frankly not let me take 10 steps back. It is currently booking calls and appointments at the same rate or better than chat. So
Mhm.
voice AI works. Let me just clarify that. I am still not sold on it 100% because it's a little bit clunky and there's like a customer experience piece in there that we should probably talk about at some point, but whatever. My point is we stayed up until 1:30 making this voice AI demo
And you
for
already weren't feeling good.
we were already both sick. Yep, yep.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
stayed up late to make this voice AI demo and new training script, new everything, and we mapped my voice onto it. So it was like people were speaking with me through this microphone, through a TV, and like we got people in to demo it based on, hey, here's this new cool thing that even we don't know if it's going to work. You want to try it out? And they were like, yeah, what's voice AI? Like, is it going to talk to me? And like they were leaning in because they were like, they don't even they're willing to put their necks out there like to let us try something that's brand new and we pitched it like almost like product development. It's like
Yeah, we're here
help
testing
us
it.
help us
Yeah.
test this new thing that we've just developed and you're going to test it live here in front of everybody and it might not work. And like people are like, "What?" Like, "Yeah, come on over. Let's see." And like they would talk into the microphone and I would talk out of the speaker back at them and they were like, "Is that your voice?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's my voice." And it was very clunky because they would say, "Is that your voice?" And then the AI would reply, "Yeah, that's my voice." Blah 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 blah. And people would like, "Oh, that's so cool." And then the AI would stop talking and be like, "Thank you. I think you're pretty cool too." And then it would like keep going with its sales script. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." And it literally drew a crowd. It like people came over because
Nice.
they were laughing and like talking, trying to like get it to say funny things. And you could see our neighbors getting more and more upset. Like the more people came over to our table, like it was talking loud enough, not really disturbing their conversation. It was at a reasonable volume, but you could tell that the people they were talking to were paying more attention to what was happening over at our
I
table.
love it. That's really
Whew. Yeah. So like you can turn a demonstration into a thing that actually draws people in. You just have to kind of present it in a way that actually is
it
intriguing
was
or would,
fun,
yeah,
right?
it's fun.
It
Yep.
brings that fun element where, just a 2-minute demo is boring, but like, hey, this might not work. And then it's your voice. And I like that extra gimmick that you put in there of that
Yep.
because they're like, whoa, wait, that's you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that's a lot of fun. I like
Yeah.
it a lot.
And it was the right idea, right? Like, and I know now more than ever, I already knew to trust Benjamin when he's like, we need to do something. If he's that gung ho about it, I'm like, yeah, man, I totally believe it. Let's do it as long as
Mhm.
you figure it out and I don't have to figure it out. Like, let's do it, But we even learned a lot in that like late night AI training session. We did some interesting things, not to get too far off script here about the show, but where the prompt that you put in to train the AI, like the training database, the more steps that it has to complete, the more stuff that it has to do, the more chances that it will break and like
Mhm.
not, it'll go off script or not actually do the thing it needs to do. And we played around with just doing kind of what you do in Chat GPT, where you're like, look, you are now this person. You
Mhm.
are this salesperson who has this sales framework. Your goal is this, get them to book an appointment. Anything that they say, respond to it as though you are this person. It's like no step-by-step questions
Right.
to ask, no framework for how to do it. It's like you are now this person. And we just used a famous, sales guy, guru guy that I like his training framework. And it
Mhm.
was like night and day, from what we had been doing, which is just kind of like questions, qualification, appointment setting. It turned it into like, oh, what are you looking for in a new home? Do you really care more about value, or do you want really the cheapest price? It's doing stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, like we're going to sell homes with this thing. Like within a year or two, we're going to be able to sell somebody, because that's kind of where, it's
Mhm.
cutting edge, but that's where it's headed. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's so cool. My favorite prompt is write this like Gary Halbert.
yeah.
So I'll just say like, this is what the other day I had it write a Facebook post for me, and all I had was and again, like everybody's been using AI, and it's probably like old news to everybody else using AI, but it was just that next step of me understanding the AI where I was like, instead of writing it and then telling it to rewrite it, I'm like, look, I was at the gym this morning and I have a goal of doing 3 million steps. I'm going to make a Facebook post about it. And I'm going to use a picture of me sweating, getting off the treadmill. And I want to talk about like the commitment to do that. And also build a business is also a commitment. But building a business is also, you can have a shortcut.
Mm.
And here's the shortcut is my program. And so ChatGPT pretty much knows my program by now because of what you did, and you got my sales letter and everything in there.
And
And so I
that
said,
was from that custom GPT.
yeah. Well,
Nice.
I didn't do it in that. I've asked it enough questions
Mm.
that it knows if I just say write an email about my membership, it will, in a new chat, not attached to anything, it will just write an email about Handmade Sellers Club.
Yeah, it has a history
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it'll save. Yep, yep.
So I knew it knew the history. So I said just like, and I said, and give it reasons why my program is a shortcut. And I had to edit a little bit. I took one piece out. There was like a chunk in the middle that felt like it didn't belong. And it just wrote the post for me in the style of Gary Halbert.
Oh,
So
that's so great.
I know it's like, why do I even try?
Yeah.
Like, why am I writing anything? And if I just
I
go in there and tell it my idea and say, write it like you're Gary Halbert, then it's just
I
going to
don't
find the
write
right way to.
anything anymore. Like
I
I do,
know.
but it's like I have it so close now where it'll spit it out and I'm like, "Yep, 80% perfect. Let me
Yep.
just like switch this here, switch this here." That is how I would have written it. And like that's only going to get better too, right? I know for a fact they're working on um every every input that you've given it, right? Um they're going to be able to create custom profiles for the person that is giving the inputs, right? So it's like every one that you said, yep, that one's good. Like the end result of everything that you had it right as copywriting, it's like, great, this is their style. And it's going to like make a, you know what I'm saying? It's going to like make a profile for you based on everything that you've produced. It's like, great, I know everything about you now. I know exactly how you like to write. I know exactly what kind of Facebook posts you want, and it'll just spit out exactly what you want.
Yeah.
And the more data we feed it, the better it gets. So,
Yep. I want to go back and delete something because I had it roast me a while back, and it roasted me about this one seagull message that I put in there. And every once in a while, I'll put something in there as if I'm doing it for my client, and so I'll be like, oh, we're selling this fused glass jewelry, whatever. I'm like, I need to go in and get all of those out of there so it doesn't think that I sell stuff.
Yep.
And that I shouldn't be talking about seagulls all the time. There's like a quarter of the roast was this one time I asked it to make a post about seagulls, baby seagulls. So no, yeah, I think that's fantastic. What I do want to say is that I think I was right and I think you were wrong.
Great.
I think
that's the case always. So
it is the case in this case, because as you were talking about like what you did, and I love, the demo and all of that. I with the voice AI, I think all of that's great. You said the banner didn't work. You remember what I suggested for the banner?
A different design.
A whole different. No, my very first suggestion for the banner that I think would have worked really, really well was a screenshot of your Facebook ad.
Yeah, and I was planning on it.
Giant, just the whole back wall should be a giant picture of your Facebook ad, because everybody walking through there that is potentially your customer has seen that ad. And you need to make it clear that I'm that guy.
People. Yeah.
And you need to come, and they'd be like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they don't know.
I agree. And I agreed with you then. And I still agree.
But you totally disregarded the suggestion.
Rose, I don't know if it's me or you. We're back.
You froze on my end, but I don't.
You froze on my end too. I tried to get a screenshot because it was a good frozen face for you. But so I agreed then. I agree now. The problem was I was doing all the design, and I am not a graphic designer. It was kind of down to the wire.
Have the graphic design. You just like, if you got it, it's just, if you could get a resolution big enough to put on a banner, that would be the only thing, right?
Yeah.
But even if you couldn't, you can mimic that pretty damn close.
Yeah.
Where you're not designing from scratch. It would have just been a giant white banner with you in the shark shirt and with a play button on it so that everybody understands that it's a video, and the top level of text on the top. And they go, oh, it's that guy.
I know. And like, I agreed then. I agree now. Like, I think that probably would have worked better. I even thought it then. Are you ever working on something and you get to a point and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. Like, even though I know this would be better, like, I'm not going to do this.
Sure.
I decided in the moment as I was making that version of it, I was like, I'm going to spend way too much time and effort on this when I just need to get it done. Like, I procrastinated, which is what my work style is. That's like my thing. I wait until the last minute, and that's what motivates me. And I was like, there's no way on earth that I could get this done in the way that I would like to have it done in enough time to get my brochure also done, and our business cards, and like this and that and that and that. Right. So I just had to prioritize. And unfortunately, that was the thing that fell by the wayside. So
that would have been the difference, Duncan. That right there. That right there would have been the whole difference between everything that happened and everything that could have happened.
Well, I'm just going to text everyone.
It's fine.
I'm going to text everyone a screenshot of the ad, like as seen on Facebook. Like,
yeah, as seen on Facebook. That's like the whole thing.
I did that. I had that thing, and I was working on it, and it was getting there. But I was like, I know that I'm going to spend another 4 hours trying to make this work. And I can't. I had to get the stuff to the lady to print it that yesterday in order to get it in time. Yeah. She was like, yeah, I don't think you're going to get everything in time. And we did not get our brochures. She had to print them on a printer, like a regular old color printer, not glossy at all, just like straight up printer paper brochures. So that's kind of what I was dealing with, was like I just waited too long,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, something like that really does take time and pre-preparation but and I know you got like a bajillion things going on. So at least you made it there and you guys like did a good job and you met lots of people. How long did it actually go for? Is it 4
3
days?
days.
3 days.
Yeah, I mean, we were there for a week because we drove. We drove on Monday, and it was a 16-hour drive because we had to stop at Cracker Barrel to buy coats.
You didn't even have coats.
I know.
Now
I
you got
bought a
Cracker
nice,
Barrel coats. That's
nice
how
winter coat.
when we moved back from Florida to Ohio, it was in March, and we come back and it's like snowing, and I'm like, I don't have pants. Like I literally don't own a pair of pants. I
Yeah,
definitely don't have a coat.
yeah.
So we ran to Goodwill and like bought all kinds of coats and jackets just to get us through the spring until we could like get the official. Well, full disclosure, my coat is still from Goodwill, so no shame in my thrifting game.
I love Goodwill. That's one of my
I do
favorite places
too.
to shop. Yeah.
It really is.
The lady, they get commissions at Cracker Barrel. I don't know if you know that, but the lady upsold us hardcore. She was like, it's gonna be snowing in Kentucky, right? Because we talked to her, and we're like, yeah, and like, oh, I got like a long sleeve shirt, and like that. She's like, no, it's like going to be actual ice and snow. You need like a winter coat. I was like, you're right. She's like, oh yeah, take a look at these. They're 25% off, and you're probably gonna want a hat because you're bald. And I was like, you're right. So I bought like a horrible hat where the fur is like flying off into my eyes, and like just not a good hat. But the jacket, to be fair, is very nice. So I'm glad I got that.
Well, good. Now you can come visit Ohio and not freeze to death. You can
Yeah,
come.
I'm in.
Well, I don't know that I want to invite you in the wintertime, though. It's depressing.
I
You got
like
to come in the
snow.
fall.
I like snow and depressing ice and cold. I'm all about it.
But like you got to hit the right. All right, it's snowing and it's beautiful. Like today, it was snowing and it's ugly. Like today is ugly. It's the snow's not really sticking. I think it's evaporating. I don't know. It's just not going anywhere. It's really gross right now.
Yeah, but we're artists, Allie. Like that's, it speaks to our tortured souls to be stuck inside while it's freezing out. Like that's what we need to develop our creativity. Is that not you?
I like to be inspired. I like my creativity to be inspired by blue skies
Mm.
and palm trees. That's
Yeah,
and a beach. A beach would be ideal.
I'm like the long winter is never going to end, deep depression, and like that's where my best work comes from. But then I
No.
come out of it, I'm like, oh, everything's fine now.
Yeah, no, man.
Mm,
I gotta say, having my office outside the home has been a lifesaver for me
mm-hmm.
because otherwise I would just be curled up in a ball at home and never leave the house and never put shoes on. And that's what gets you. So having to come here, and then the place we work out is just like 2 blocks up that way. So going and being able to work out in a nice warm location and then be able to come here. It's been a much better winter than I anticipated. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
happy about it.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, Allie Thompson. I am currently not wearing shoes in my home office. And I have not left since we got back from the show. I don't think
Yeah.
I've gone to the grocery store. Like I've been here. So
Yeah, that's my tendency, which is why I think I have to have an office. Because I thought about it, I'm like, well, if one of the kids moved out, I could take their room over as an office. Like, I don't think that's good for me. I don't think that I can, especially not here in the winter time. It's just not. And how close? I mean, it's 5 blocks away, right? We
yeah,
live 6 blocks away.
yeah.
So it's not like I have to drive an hour through traffic to get to my office. I just have a nice leisurely stroll. I get my exercise in every day. Although I haven't walked to work since January started.
Yeah.
It's been 2
You don't want to
years.
freeze to death out there. That would be a problem. Yeah.
It gets so cold that your nostrils will actually like the hairs inside your nostrils will freeze.
Yeah.
And you can feel that you can't quite even flare your nostrils. That's when you know that it just got seriously cold.
Yep.
All right. So so you went to some presentations and stuff and you talked about like wanting to talk about like integration and how everything works together. And you went to a presentation about social media and that sort of thing, and how everything works together. What do you mean?
Okay.
like what were your ahas?
Yes, a couple different things in that. So we'll cover the everything is connected thing. I think it speaks to the power of picking a niche, picking a focus. I think it speaks to being consistent and doing the work that other people won't do, even if it's lower quality than you really want. Just like putting it out is very important, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So a couple things happened. Procrastinator, right? It's like we got our ads up and running, which was fantastic, but I procrastinated on getting our cold email campaigns running, which I also wanted to do until probably a couple weeks before the show, and also follow-ups and things like that. I haven't been super consistent on, and probably a month before the show, I really started sending out more nurture emails, more to our like hot lead list, which is like people that we've been on calls with, to at least start nurturing the people that have already showed interest, right? It's like at
Mhm.
the bare minimum. Doesn't have to be everybody, but like I was like, I know I need to be hitting these people to get this ball rolling to the point that we can hire people, and I won't be working as crazy as I am now. Like I just have to buckle down and do the work, even if it's not perfect, right? That was kind of the mantra, was like, just get it out, just get it done, be consistent, even though that's very hard for you. So got all that stuff rolling, um, and then got to the show, and I talked to maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 people that I had already had calls with, someone in their organization, right? It's like they were
Mhm.
like, yeah, I've heard of you guys. Like, are you on Facebook or LinkedIn or something? I'm like, yeah, we're doing some Facebook ads and we have calls with people. What's your company name? They would say it. And I'm like, yeah, that rings a bell. I would look like, oh, yeah, we were on a call with one of their salespeople, but this is the decision maker. Like, this is the guy that would make the choice about whether to hire us or not. And then I would go up to them again and I'd be like, hey, I spoke with this person, right? They heard from me, and just that was like the first thing that happened, connecting the dots there. Like, oh yeah, these are people that we've touched peripherally that needed a little bit more follow-ups, a little bit more trust built in order to get to move the ball forward, right? If we're
Mhm.
bothering that sales guy regularly every week about all the amazing results that we're getting, he's going to keep bothering his boss. And I saw that actually come to fruition with someone who I think we cold called initially, wasn't able to actually get the thing booked, but then they came through our ads later and then got a call with them. She ran it up the chain to the vice president and the CEO. I've been following up with her regularly since that happened, and the higher ups at the company have gotten cold emails from me since I started that. And then they were all at the show and they were like, yeah, we keep hearing about you guys, and like Ashley mentioned you to us, and like this is something we know that we need, and we know we need it, we just haven't really pulled the trigger yet. And I'm so glad that you guys are at the show because we've been hearing about you over and over, and like we know that you're the ones that we're going to go with when we decide to pull the trigger. And it's like, okay, all of that had to come together in order to make that happen. Cold call
Mhm.
had to happen, ads had to happen, follow-ups had to happen to remind that lady to keep talking to them about us because she mentioned us multiple times. They got cold email touch points that they definitely opened, and then they saw us at the show, and now we have a meeting with them, with the decision makers, right? I was like, oh, okay, I'm seeing how everything is connected, right? It's
Yep.
not just one piece of the puzzle, even though it's important to get one rolling. It's like you need to have a way to build trust on multiple channels, especially when
Yes.
your audience is the entire country. Even though it's a market, like even though it's a niche within the entire country, like we're advertising to a ton of people. We're marketing
Mhm.
to a ton of people and leveraging the things that can market to them effectively at scale multiple times, multiple channels, is really the thing that starts to move the needle in a measurable way. That was kind of the main thing that clicked.
The what I get out of that is really almost, and maybe I'm mischaracterizing this, but almost more that you're coming to the realization that it's different than I'm trying to sell a thing to a customer and then move on to the next customer.
Yep.
It's a lot more about that integration and that relationship building. And even though your clientele is all over the country, it's still a finite niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's still just X amount of people that are in that niche.
Yep.
And when you talk to the people in that niche and they know each other and there's all of those connections happening, and then you show up in a way that's a little outrageous and a little bit something that people are talking about, you're doing it in a unique way. You're wearing the shark shirt on the ad and all of that, that you're going to get noticed, but not just noticed, that they're going to talk about you, right? And that's when you know that you have the influence. And continuing those touch points. And that's what we talked about earlier when we were on a call together with Ryan. We talked about like direct mail. So if those then heads of companies got a giant while you were out poster from you, or a bank bag from you. And I think you are the mascot, right? You are the face, you are the crazy shirts, bald guy with the beard. Like,
Yep.
they instantly recognize you. And when you show up in outrageous ways, they're going to have that strong connection with you. And it's more like multiple hits to the same target versus always trying to find a new target to hit.
Correct.
And those multiple hits to the same target, the payoff is so much bigger in that space versus like, oh, I just need to find somebody that wants a deck or wants a new kitchen or whatever. Yep. You're hitting that target and you're moving on. Well, there's obviously something to be said about follow-up, even to customers like that. But that's where Dan Kennedy talks about, and that, what was I listening to recently, and they were talking about the top 100 list. Mm-hmm. I don't know if your coaching program talks about that. I'm sure they do, because they're like Dan Kennedy. They have basically everything that you've said to me. I'm like, take Dan Kennedy's magnetic market. They have lifted that up and just changed the word for each one for like agency, which is good because it's stuff that works. But that 100 person target list and actually creating a list. Oh, it was like, I was reading in the EOS book. They talked about figuring out the marketing for your business, and EOS really isn't really about marketing, but they like spend half a chapter on marketing, and their biggest thing was create that top 100 list. These are the top 100 companies we want to go after. And if you just did like a direct mail campaign to those 100 companies, and then you emailed people in those 100 companies, and you sent newsletters to people in those 100 companies, and you even maybe like target those 100 people with ads as much as you can, like target that down there. Every time they turn around, there you are.
Yep.
And so when they're ready to do AI, and a couple of other agencies have gotten the memo and they're going to try to show up in the space, you're the obvious choice.
Yep.
And it's just being ever present, and then ever present in a way. I think you really should listen to, I don't know if you listen to podcasts very often or a lot or not, but that magnetic marketing podcast that Russell Brunson's doing, he just uploaded two-part series on Bill Glazer talking about outrageous marketing. And that's these books here, which you can read the book. There's 3 of them. You can read the books or listen to the podcast. The podcast is basically built off of this one. If you look at the cover photo, he had like a picture of him in a straitjacket, and he would talk about like, it's price is so low, I must be crazy. He was like in a men's clothing business, but he does like the handwritten sales letter, and he did a picture of him in a Superman costume coming out of a telephone booth. He did one where he was like in jail, like behind bars. They found a wrought iron fence and like put chains around his wrist. This is for menswear.
Yeah.
And the whole idea with Bill Glazer is just that we're all being bombarded by marketing messages, and everybody's bored and everybody's boring. And so if you just stand out that little bit, do something different. And that's what I love about the niche that you're in, because you can be an absolute celebrity in that niche, because nobody else knows how to do that. Mm-hmm. Nobody else knows how to bring these kinds of marketing strategies to that market. Mm. And so everybody's going to know who you are. Everybody's going to be talking about you. And it's small town famous,
Yep.
right? You're small town famous, but your town is the specific niche industry.
Yep.
And if everybody knows you, how can your business not grow?
Yeah, 100%.
If
Yep.
every obviously in a good way, unless they're like that
Reputation's
Duncan.
everything, right? Yeah, you gotta preserve your reputation in a small pond for sure.
Yes, for
And I'm
sure.
thinking about a lot of those things now, like how do we, how do we vet people that we might potentially work with because everyone knows everyone? It's like, what do we need to think about? What steps do we need to take to make sure that the clients we take on aren't going to hurt our reputation in the industry as well? Like if it
Mhm.
goes south for whatever reason.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love
it's
that may be your approach,
mhm,
right? Flip it to we're interviewing potential clients to work with.
yeah,
And instead of saying we're trying to sell you this thing, we're interviewing mobile home retailers to see who's going to be the best fit. And we're only taking on like 5 this month.
yep.
And that could be the thing that adds that urgency, and get them to lean into where they start to convince you why they're the right fit versus you convincing them why you're the best fit.
Yeah, I've thought about it and like we have the seven-figure agency coaching program, framework
Mhm,
or whatever, and like they have a very specific, here's how we do it and here's the process and follow the process to get the results. And like I understand that that's important. I understand that that's important. But our use case is a little bit different than theirs because we're positioning ourselves as more of an AI offering than like a full service marketing agency offering.
mhm,
And even if we were positioning ourselves as a full service agency, there are other businesses in the space already doing that. So it's harder to, I don't know. I don't want to just be a normal agency. I want to be like, we're only taking on 5 clients this month. We're here interviewing you. That's more
mhm.
my vibe. Like, that's what I want to do
Yeah,
when I get
I
on a
think that's
call.
what you should do.
Yeah. And
I
like,
I
I've been
think that's
doing
what you should do. There's a lot of Dan Kennedy books that I've read over the years where he's shown examples like that, and one was a dentist that they, got tired of no-shows, they got tired of people that would complain about, like, the cost and all of that, so they locked the front door, put a sign on it, said, "We are not open, you can only come by referral only," lock the front door, said, "If this is an emergency, call this number," and it's somebody else's office, right? It's not even them. We take referrals only. They took out the waiting room and put in like a baby grand piano and a chandelier and like just this really cozy space, and it was referral only. And this guy like tripled, quadrupled his business
Yep.
because they're like, "Ooh, this is exclusive. We want to get in." And you mentioned before that this is a little bit of a good old boys club, right? Everybody
Very.
knows each other. And now you start getting exclusive. And now you, in order to be a client, you need to have been referred by somebody, whether
Mhm.
you want to go that route immediately or not. But just like thinking of it to its conclusion, that I'm not open to everybody. We are interviewing you to see if you're a good fit for what we're doing. I'll tell you everything that I'm doing, and you let me know if you think it's a good fit for you. But we're interviewing, because we are only going to take on 5 clients. And if you just took on five clients a month, your business is going to grow pretty darn big.
Yep.
If you take on 2, then you get well, we only have 3 more spots left this month. So if you want to get started right away, I would not wait too long because we're only
Mm.
taking 5 total and we've already had 2 people sign up.
Yep.
Right. And so now you're adding that extra level of persuasion, that persuasion trigger that Cialdini talks about of, a reason to get off the fence. Right now, they're just sitting on the fence waiting for somebody to kick them off.
Yep.
And it may just be that shift. It's worth a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do your
I'm,
calls all that way next week. And see what happens.
yeah, I'm down and like I'm on so many calls that it's like, I've been trying things on the ones that I'm on now, even though we have kind of like a set, this is what we normally do. We made the change to 2 calls and, uh, not like day night kind of switch, but I haven't closed anybody since then. And I'm not saying that I haven't done tried to one call close people since then. But my point is, like, if we close the door to variability depending on the situation, it limits our opportunities in an already niche down market. Okay, what do I mean by that?
I was going to say, what
So,
do you mean by that?
yeah, so let me clarify. So,
What do you mean by that?
oh well, I'll tell you, Allison, what I mean by that. So, I was on a call yesterday. That was a second call. We do a 2-call close. That's kind of the consulting coaching business that we're the membership that we're part of teaches. You do discovery on the first call, qualification on the first call, and close on the second call. Great, whatever. I don't care. We're getting on first calls with people who are not quite the right fit. They're a sales guy at an office, and we tried to make a product that they could afford, that is a little bit more performance based. It's like, look, we'll do this whole thing for free. I'll run your ads for free. We'll run this whole system for free. You pay us per appointment. And like, we're going to get paid the same amount. We're going to get paid more than what we get paid as our flat retainer fee. And it's done an interesting thing where they're like, okay, so if you actually perform at the rate that you say you're going to, we're going to pay you 20-30% more than just your retainer. So we might as well take the retainer. Right.
Hmm.
So it's done an interesting thing there. But the second thing, like the variability, right? If I'm stuck to a framework and I'm like, nope, on this call, all I do is I qualify. And then on the second call, I try and close you. What I said to that sales guy was like, look, man, I have this performance based thing, but your business as a whole, the position that your company is in with the amount of offices that you have, with the spend that you're doing, really, I should be talking to your GM, to the business owner, because here's an example of that. A business in the exact scenario that you guys are in with the same goals, and here's what we're doing for them. So let's get on a second call and do that more like the first call that I normally do, where I'm doing qualification and closing on the same call with someone else who can make the decision, right? It's like variability there needs to be room for that based on
Yes.
who we're getting in our funnel right now. And even in so much as saying, like, yeah, allowing me the freedom to say, yeah, we've already taken on 4 clients this month. I only have room for one other one based on how many people we can even onboard in a month and still serve them the way that we want to serve them. So if you're interested in this, I got another 10 calls today with people just like you. So if you want it, you need to let me know as soon as possible. And it's like, that's something that I need in my back pocket to like
Yes.
use, even if it's on the first call. Like, I can't be too
Yeah,
rigid.
I
Like, I
I
can't.
think that you were originally going with your gut on things and you were following the other person's lead, and now you're leading, but it doesn't necessarily match with every conversation that you're having, and so you're
Yep.
trying to shoehorn a strategy into a variable conversation that you don't know how it's going to go one way or the other. So
Yeah,
I
and like
agree with
that
you. I don't
strategy
know
is,
that I've ever been in love with this idea of the 2-call close.
yeah, it's
Like
weird.
if you can close them on the first call, if you're like, I'm going to like blow your mind right now, I'm going to show you everything that I can do, and I'm only taking 3 more clients this month or 2 more clients this month or whatever it is. Um, are you in? Are you in?
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
like all the calls that I've closed for the most part have been like that. It's like, here's this thing, here's what you put into it as far as the investment, here's what we expect out of the back end. Do those numbers make sense to you? Do you believe that we can do it? Yes, yes. Are you in or are you in? Like that, those
Yeah.
were the times that people were like, yep. And then the one guy said yes, but we didn't have the infrastructure to sign him on the first call.
Yeah.
So he ghosted us after. And then I still kicked him off the fence with a text later, and he is now a client, right? And getting great results. So like, to me, I need that flexibility. And I think that,
I think you just need to go back to what you were doing that worked.
exactly. And that's what I did this week. Like, I made that
Frameworks are
transition.
great for people who need them. I don't think that you were, and I think it was worth a test, obviously. It's always worth a test to try something new,
Yep.
but you've got your feedback from that test.
Yep.
And I think that you need to go back and feel them out and just like, are you in? Are you in?
Yeah, and there are some people that I was on calls with today that it was like talking to a brick wall. And I was like, I could show you everything that we do, but it seems like what would benefit you more would be me just giving you a free roadmap for how to accomplish this yourselves, to see if this would even be a good fit, right? For those people that are like, I'm like talking to them and asking questions and they wait 5 seconds before they even like acknowledge that I asked a question. It's like, okay, well, they're clearly not even open to what that happening on this call. So like I
Yes.
should say, great, let's set a second call and I'll come back with some more value and then I'll close you there. But I've
Mhm.
had maybe 5 calls this week already, 6 calls maybe, that I was like, I want to talk to this guy more right now and he wants to talk to me more. But
Mhm.
because of my strategy, it's like now I am supposed to
Yeah,
go
that's
next
where I
call.
think. Right.
Yeah.
And
And
maybe
like,
give yourself more time between the calls.
correct. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then maybe even qualify them a little bit more to where even in the sign up process, you're like, hey, this is what to expect on this call. We're
Mm,
only able to onboard, X amount of people each month. So just be aware of that. Like, I don't know, like we're looking for people that are the right match for us and for this technology. Could you answer these additional follow-up questions? It
sure.
may reduce how many people you're getting calls with, but I think right now you've got too many calls and not enough closes where you can decrease the amount of calls. But because they're so vetted on the front end and they jump through the hoops, if you get people to jump through the hoops, just like they did to us to going to Miami, right? We had to jump through the hoops and we had to get on a call with somebody and we had to show, like tell them how much money we made and
Yeah.
all of that stuff, right? And then you're like, oh gosh, I hope they let me in. It
Yeah.
completely changes the tables. And
Yeah.
if you
Yep.
can switch the tables to where you're no longer the predator
Mm,
and you make them feel like they're the predator,
yep.
it's
Yep.
a completely different ball game. It's
Yeah.
no
And
longer
that's
your idea, it's their idea.
that's really what I need. And like I was able to kind of get people into that place on a call where it's like, look, this thing works. That was the vibe that I kind of that's how I felt at the end of the calls that they just closed, was like they were convinced that it worked. And I was just getting out of their way. Like, yeah, here's the price and it works and you believe me. So like now the next step is X.
And now
And
you're
I
putting up speed bumps. You're letting them think about it. You're
correct.
letting them stew on it. I
Yep.
don't
Yep.
know. I don't know if
Do
this
some
is a
research. Yeah, it's
Yep,
like, no, like I'm the one you want. Like this is and today is how you're gonna get it, right?
yep.
Like I don't know. Yeah, so I agree is my point, and I shifted back into that this week because I felt it. I felt it really intensely this week, where I was like, I could have closed that guy. He was sold on me, like not even our product. He liked me and was like, yeah, I believe whatever this guy is gonna say and like I want to work with him regardless of the system, right? And like you can kind of feel that from people.
Yep.
So anyway, all that to say, the event was great, and now I'm changing my whole sales process back to something that was working before.
I love it.
um
I love
yeah.
it though. I think that there's a lot to learn from all of that. I've
Yeah.
been like just terribly curious
Hmm.
for a week now. You've made me wait a week to hear
Well,
anything about this event.
we didn't even get to the juicy part yet. Like the
Oh,
grand finale is what I think we're gonna like. We could talk for another 2 hours on this by itself, but I probably need to eat at some point. So like, let's get into it. Let's get into
okay.
it.
Let's do
So
it. Let's do it.
the panel discussion,
The
right?
panel discussion.
There were
I
5.
literally thought maybe you were listening to one of our podcasts on the drive home because you're like, I'm listening to a couple of idiots listen talk about
No,
marketing. And I'm like,
no,
is it us? Are we
we
the
were
idiots?
still there. That was the last day. Yeah, and like Benjamin and I both left our booth to go watch this panel discussion, like unattended. Like, let's just leave the brochures there because I've been calling them the marketing and sales boys club. Like, how do I break in to the boys club? Like, here's the panel. Everybody on this panel are the people that we want to be. We want to be seen as the expert that tells them how to do stuff, right?
Right.
Like they come to us when they have questions. Like that's what I want to be.
Mhm.
Anyway, up there was a pretty good range of people. There was like a CRM guy that built a custom, MH CRM. There was a consulting person that does PR and like in-person events, also organic social. There was a technology guy who they do VR tours. It's like the 3D tours, but you put the VR on and walk the client through whatever. I had a meeting with his sales guy this week to see how we could integrate with their thing. That was kind of cool. Anyway, then we had a marketing agency, manufactured housing industry marketing agency, Then we had a sales training guy on the end there. And I think that's it. So like a pretty wide range of like marketing and sales people. So I appreciated that. I was like, this is cool. I like hearing different parts of this puzzle, right? And they already have tons of customers at this show. Like one of them didn't even have a booth. He was just there like meeting with customers, the agency guy.
Mhm.
And so like they're the people. Like if we're in with them, we're in the in club. How do I get in? Was kind of my vibe. They were talking, and all the normal stuff came up, like, how do we post on social media? And I was like, oh God, here we go. And it was what you would expect, not to like talk shit about them, but they fall prey to all the same stuff that every other agency does. It's like
Mhm.
post all the time, you know, make sure you're putting stuff out into the world, and like frequency is everything. And the one guy that actually said something really great about content was the sales training guy. He was like, yeah, people want to see your homes. They want to see what you have to offer. They also want to hear stories about your customers and how it went when they worked with you. So like testimonials are great. They want to hear what it's like to work in this industry and things that are happening behind the scenes that blah blah blah. So like don't just post ads about your house. Like you need this other stuff too. So I was like, hell yeah, brother, like you're on it. But he was the only one. Like the agency did not say that. The consulting person that sells social media services did not say that. And like that's pretty par for the course. So I was like, yeah, whatever. And then the question came up, how much, like, how do you get, how much do you spend on your advertising budget? And how do you manage the incoming leads that you're getting from paid advertising effectively? It's like, what do you recommend? And they were like, get to your leads in under 5 minutes. Have a conversation with them to stop them from Googling. It's like a conversation that leads to a goal, possibly booking an appointment or doing a credit application. And in my head, I was going like, check, like, yep, our AI does
Mhm.
that. Check, our AI does that. Check, 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 check. And then they were like, yeah, how do we get our salespeople to even do that? And sales training guys, like, you have to be on them. It's like that's their whole job, is to like field those
Oh
incoming
my gosh,
leads.
there's so much copy here.
Oh God, I know. I like same. My brain was like, bing, 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 bing. I was like, this is what needs to happen. It's like this whole thing that's happening right here. I need this recording, and I need to sit and be like, yep, AI does that. Here's an example. Like, yep, AI does this. Here's an example of it handling this problem. And they had an open mic that's like open for questions. You can just walk up and say something if you want. They were having that discussion, and I walked up and I was like, so, they know who I am. They know what we're there selling. I was like, so are there any emerging technologies that you guys have heard of that are coming out to kind of help solve this problem, And they were quiet for like 15 seconds. I swear to God. Benjamin was like looking at back and forth between the panel and me, and I was like shaking. I could feel my heart pounding in my head. And then somebody was like, yeah, we have some chat bots that kind of work, but they're not really great at it because you ask it a question and it kind of like goes around in circles. And I was like, okay, so if you had like an AI or something that could ask questions more like a person, and it got to the leads within 5 minutes, and it scheduled appointments, that would kind of solve that whole problem, right? And they were like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool, just checking. Like, walked up and sat down, and they were like looking at each other up on the panel, and I was like, oh God, oh God. It was so funny. And like I thought that I was gonna have a heart attack while I was standing there waiting for them to
Oh
call on
my
me
god.
I know, I know. And I was like, this is crazy to me that they didn't even talk about it. Like they didn't even bring it up, right? That it blew my mind that it wasn't even like on their radar at all. Um, so yeah, that
Especially
was
if they know you and what you do.
I think they might just not get it. Like that's kind of the conclusion that I've drawn, right? So I've been turning it over in my head. I've been talking to Benjamin about it. I'm like, what's the problem, man? Like, what is their problem? Why don't they see how game changing this is? All of the agencies deal with this problem of the clients complaining because the leads suck. And the reality is the sales team sucks. Like every single person on that panel understands that problem, and they are dealing with it constantly with their clients. And my revelation was they just don't get it. Like they don't understand that the problem isn't a problem anymore. Like they don't know. Because if they did, they would be scrambling to try and build something and sell it to these people. I think that if they really understood that it was possible, they would try and capitalize on it. So here's the question, right? Like, how do we position ourselves to solve that problem, not only for our clients, but also for all of their clients? It's like, look, and for them, right? Because they're dealing with the problem of people churning because they say the leads suck, and we can solve it for them also.
Mm-hmm.
It's like retain clients longer because they're getting appointments instead of just leads. It's like, how do I market
And
to
who
them?
wants to be on top of their staff and, like, hitting them with a
Oh,
stick and, like, "No, you gotta call, you gotta call, you gotta call."
right?
Like, for the manager or for the owner, it is such a relief to not have to do that and just have
Yep.
staff there for when an appointment shows up.
Mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm.
like, nobody that was one of the things that you just said that I was like, "That's, like, solving a huge problem because nobody wants to do that." I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe an ad of like, "Hey, we were just at the XYZ Expo in Louisville, Kentucky, and somebody asked like, how do you get the best response out of your leads or how do you convert more leads?" And it was respond in 5 minutes. Ask them qualifying questions, get them to fill out an app, et cetera, et cetera. Like at least three things you have to do in order to close more leads. And then say something like, well, duh, of course we all want to do that, but like when leads are coming in fast or you're getting too many, you just can't answer them. AI does all three of these things. AI will respond to your lead within 5 minutes. AI will have a conversation with them and pre-qualify them in advance. AI will book the appointment on site. All you have to do is get up or all you have to do is be there when they show up for their appointment.
Yep.
And like just kind of spell it out for them. Like, this is what you're doing. This is what you're not doing and why you're not closing leads. This is what you need to do, close leads. And this is exactly what we're going to give you.
Mm.
And besides just like, I think you need to do an ad too that shows a sales conversation on AI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just take somebody right through the conversation. And,
Yeah.
it could start with you and like, hey, one of the biggest problems that salesmen have is getting back to their leads in time. And it can be a lot when you've got appointments and you've got so many leads coming in, talk about all the problems. But with this, it's going to handle it for you. And then you just show them, obviously stated in a much more Gary Halbert marketing copywriter way than what I just said. But you get the idea. Just problem, agitate, solution.
Yep.
What is the number
Yeah.
one problem that they have? Agitate it. Here's the solution. And we're going to do it all for you. But really just showing them this is exactly what happens. And then when you get to the end of that, then be like, this is Carl in Oklahoma. He just made $2.5 million with this.
Yep.
And his staff didn't have to work any extra hours and they didn't have to answer a single Facebook message.
Yep.
This is Joe in Alabama, and he just sold 5 mobile homes this month. And he didn't talk to a single prospect until they showed up on the lot. And,
Yep.
We managed 562 leads for him that month, and his salespeople never had to call a single person.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I am on board, and I am so happy that this turned into a business development session for my business and a copywriting coaching session for me. I really appreciate that, Alice.
I'm excited. Like,
I am too.
I want like a recording of that session because it was like they handed it to you.
I know. And I was like, is
On a
this really
silver
happening
platter.
right now? I was like, is this real life? Like, I was walking up there, I was disassociating like I normally do. Like, am I really going to say this? And I like looked at Benjamin as I was walking, and he like looked and saw me and was like wide-eyed watching me walk up there. And he was like, I knew what you were going to say when you got to that mic. I knew. I was like, yeah, okay, good. Like, I knew too, even though I didn't,
so
I
good.
left my body. It was like out of body experience. Yeah, but
you left them each thinking. Like, they may
yes.
not get it,
Mm-hmm.
but you at least you made an impression on the panel, and everybody there was thinking. And like, you guys have been trying to sell me on stuff for the last 6 months and whatever. And what happens? I don't get it. I don't get it.
It
I
takes
don't
time.
see how this
Yeah.
applies to me. And so it just takes the time and for each person, it might be a different thing of like, oh, I get it. Cause they may be thinking a chat bot is simply like what we've had with was it ManyChat
Yeah.
or that it's just these pre-filled in oh, what do you want help with? Do you want this or this? And they click a button, and then it's like pre-filled out information. And that's not going to convert very many people, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it can kind of qualify a conversation, but you still have to go in and talk to them.
Yep.
This isn't like that. Well, it's kind of like that, but like on steroids times 10.
Correct. Yeah,
And you
my favorite example that I've been using is that we've had people come into the business and ask for the AI by name. Her name is Judy. Like, is Judy here? I want to make sure she gets the commission, and I want you guys to know that she was so helpful and great. Like, oh God, like that's crazy to me.
Judy's at lunch.
Yeah, like Judy, we're like, yeah, Judy's on vacation. Judy, she's great. We love her. Like, don't tell them it's an AI. Like, customer experience is everything. But that's kind of where we're at. And I think you're right. They just don't know. Like, it's
Yeah.
AI is a wave, and there's so many little waves in the wave that people just don't know yet. They don't get it
Yeah.
yet.
I'm not caught up, and I feel like I'm trying to pay attention,
Same.
right? Like
Yeah.
I'm literally trying to pay attention, and I'm in some of these Facebook groups and they're showing prompts in there. I'm like, you can have it do this. Somebody the other day in one of these AI groups I was in literally uploaded all of their receipts to AI and said, "Tell me what I don't know about my diet." AI found like 3 recalled products that they had continued to buy after the items were recalled, and
Oh.
then said, "This item that you're buying is known to cause rashes." And they're like, "Holy shit, I've had a rash for the last 6 months and I didn't know where it came from." They
Oh.
dropped that item, they stopped buying it, and their rash is gone.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, the implications, like I do that motion probably once a week now, just like
Yep.
looking at a new AI thing, like, oh my God, that's a huge business right there, right? Like
Yep.
that's what's happening right now. And like I'm so happy that I'm at the beginning of the wave. Normally at the end,
I know,
like,
me too.
oh, so
I
cool.
still feel like I'm at the end. I still feel like I'm nowhere near where I should be.
Well,
But
it's like,
usually I'm a late here's the thing. I was early on Facebook. I was
mm,
so good on Facebook. I knew things before anybody knew anything. I was
yep.
running ads for people before anybody was running ads for people. And then I took like a 5-year break. And in that 5 years, that is when the tidal wave happened.
Mm,
And so when I came back in, I'm like at the end of that tidal wave, I'm like, shit, I was
mm,
right there. I was right there. And I just took a break. And so, yeah, I'm excited about the AI stuff, but I think people are so much more savvy now that, back in 2010, when I'm teaching Facebook, so few people were even savvy about the internet or computers or whatever. And then, like, your generation is coming up having grown up on computers, right? Because my generation at that point in time, we got to play with computers in like library at school, right? And they'd be like, press these 3 buttons, and there's this thing called the internet. So most people didn't know what they were doing. I think there are so many savvy people now that it's really easy to feel behind
yeah.
because they're just, they're zeroing in on this one functionality and just completely exploding it beyond everything else. And the thing is my strategy still work on Facebook, but like there was a lot of stuff I had to relearn, and there were a lot of people that built their reputation up as the Facebook person
Yep.
while I was planting a garden and playing with my kids. Like, I don't regret it. Like, I got to spend more time with my kids, and I had like a really awesome garden. But yeah, so I'm trying to keep up with this AI stuff. But it's so fast. So
So
fast.
fast. And like we'll literally, the capability within our system to emulate a voice happened while we were at the show, right? Like that's I, and we were like, should we do that? It's like, yeah, we should definitely do that. That would make this 10 times better than just a voice AI demo. It's like map my voice on there now. So
It's
that's kind of how
crazy.
fast things are moving now. And like I am so grateful to have a business partner like Benjamin that like keeps up with all that crap and
Yeah.
figures it out. Cause like I would not. Like I will
That's
talk
his
about
hyper
it.
focus. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not my hyper focus. And so I'm like, all right, I have to just same with like go high level. It's just not my hyper focus. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I can learn it. It's fine. We'll be just fine. But like, I'm glad that somebody like Benjamin exists that I think the kids were like, oh, you should get on a call with the company. And I said, no, Benjamin knows more.
He does.
Benjamin
Yeah.
knows more. Benjamin's going to take care of it.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, it's funny. All right, Duncan. Well, I'm glad to have talked to you and found out how your week went.
Yeah.
It is something that I think that people need to, if you're going to do a trade show or any kind of event, even if it's a farmer's market, even if you're setting up your small business at a local farmer's market, you just need to be strategic, stand out in a way like you were saying, the gimmicky with the golf. It's like funny memes on Facebook, right? Yeah, it brings them over, but they're there for the wrong reason.
Yep.
So you want them to be attracted to you for the right reasons because they see um, um, how this can benefit them. You want to think it through and have a strategy. And like you said, learn from what you're observing from others. There are too many times that I've done events. I've done a lot of events, just like a big trade show like that I've never done. And you look around and so many people are just sitting on their butt or sitting on their phone with not even a sign and barely any flyers. And they're thinking this is the thing that's going to change my business. And they dropped $1,000 to be there. And they didn't have a plan. They had no plan whatsoever. So I love it. I knew that you would definitely be thinking outside the box because there is no box, right? There is no box.
There is no box. There is no spoon.
There is no spoon. So I'm glad that you shared that. Thank you.
I am glad that I got to share it. Yeah, I'm glad I got to share it because I was like, I need to tell Allie about this event. It was so cool. The panel discussion and all the things happened. Yep.
No,
I want you to be at the next one. So whatever the next one is, just plan on it.
Okay.
All right.
I'll just wander around and learn from other people.
Yeah, I mean, watch us make fools of ourselves. We
You,
did a
you don't
thing
need
where
two awkward potatoes like, oh, don't make eye contact with anybody. You don't need two of those at the table.
you'll get to watch Benjamin and I try out ways to get people's attention. We did one. I was surprised he even did it. He said, "Oh, hey, you dropped this," and it was our business card on the ground. He picked it up. And
that's like bar pickup lines.
Yeah,
like, oh, you dropped your smile.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, how awkward can we make it? Right? It's so awkward that they have to talk to us now. Like that's what I'm into.
I know, but if you like make me laugh, if it's corny enough that you made me laugh, all right, then you've earned it. Like you've earned like 2 seconds of my attention. So
yeah, there was only one time. I definitely need to leave for dinner. I think it's I'm expected at 6:00. But one last story. There was a guy with a group of people, and I think this is a good lesson to leave on, right? It's like everybody could be your potential customer. Everyone is there for the same reason. The more people that you can connect with, the better. Even if it's not naturally who you are and what you do, figure out how to connect with as many people as possible. This guy was standing with a group of people pretty far away, and they kind of turned and looked. And it was like that thing of like, yeah, talking about a booth back there. And I was like, hey, come on over. It was just like very like not even like come over and check things out. I was like, get over here, you. Like that was kind of the vibe. And the way they all turned and looked at me, I thought they were going to come over and like beat us all up, right? I thought they were going to come like baseball bats out and like wreck the whole display. They walked over and it was kind of like, the vibe was like, you got us over here. What do you want? And I gave my spiel. And then by the end, we were having a decent conversation. My point is, it's like that was the worst that could have gone, right? Like that guy was staring me down. They were all like straight faced. They were like clearly annoyed that I had interrupted them and like had them come over. And that's the worst that you're really going to get, right? The worst that you're going to get is somebody is going to come over and they're actually going to be annoyed by what you're saying. And then they're going to move on with their lives and you're never going to talk to them again, right?
Yep.
But the amount of times that you do that and connect with people is, I think, what is actually going to yield the results and like the depth of the connections that you can make. So like, don't be afraid. They're probably not actually going to stab you or kill you or whatever.
Each conversation is just like a little investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in a room like that. It's just each conversation is just a little investment you're depositing into an account, and then it's going to go off and do its things. And some are going to yield returns, some are going to yield big returns, and some are going to yield none at all. But you don't know. And so the more people you touch, that's the more investments you have that are potentially out there working for you.
Yep, 100%.
All right. You go get dinner. My hubby's going to come pick me up
nice
soon, I guess.
All right. Tell him I said hi.
I will. And we'll be back next week.
Next
4
week.
o'clock. Am
Yep.
I on your calendar?
Yeah, you're on my
Am I
calendar.
still on your calendar?
I could pencil you in.
Okay, good. All right. I'll talk to you then.
All right, bye.
Bye.